Happy Hump Day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into the Cam Rogers Show. I am Cam Rogers. Check me out on Twitter at Mr. Rogers99, episode 74. Here on March 7th, 2018, I've got you covered for the next hour. NFL headlines, top 10 NFL mock draft, a little Tiger talk at the end of the program. But we kick things off with the headliner of the episode, an interview with one of the top punters in the nation. Johnny Townsend out of the University of Florida joining the Cam Rogers Show right now. Johnny, appreciate the time, sir, and let's start things off with that experience at the Combine. How surreal was it?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thanks for having me. It's a huge honor to be here on episode number 74. But, it was an awesome experience for me. Any opportunity to get in front of all 32 NFL teams is just a huge blessing. That's an event that I've dreamed of going to ever since I began my college football career, and I'm just very thankful for the opportunity.
And of course, we have some video on you going through the drills, etc., at the NFL Combine, and not a lot of punters go to the Combine, but you were one of them. So how cool is it just to kind of go through those drills and then go through the interactions with all the officials, coaches, etc., that were there?
Like you said, not many punters get that opportunity. So I just wanted to take full advantage of it. I actually went to the Reese's Senior Bowl, so I kind of got a little taste of what the week was going to be like in terms of the interviews and the pressure situations and the interacting with all the teams and coaches. So I feel like that event kind of prepared me a little bit for the Combine, and, I think it went well.
Now, the Combine, of course, is in the rear view mirror. So now you're looking ahead, and now as you sit back in Florida, how is your confidence level at as we get closer to the NFL draft?
I think staying confident is one of the most important things throughout this process. It is a long, draining process. Ever since the season ended, you're preparing for these each individual events, and they hold so much weight that I think staying positive and staying confident is definitely one of the most important things you can do throughout this entire process.
Punters out there, Johnny, it's probably quite aware for you that they don't get a lot of respect and they don't make a lot of headlines, a lot of highlights. But you know what? It is such a game within the game in terms of directionally speaking and hang time and all this. So let me ask you, how is your punting game right now, and what are you actually working on to improve?
I think it's the best it's ever been. Now would be a really good time to peak in terms of my punting abilities. But, everything I'm working on right now is just, things that I saw in college that I want to improve on at the next level in terms of, putting more hang time on the ball and, kicking the ball with better direction, things like that. But, like I said, every little thing that I saw in college that I want to take to the next level, I'm just working on enhancing that.
Now, you're a Florida guy, of course, so how cool would it be, just hypothetically speaking here, if, say, the Dolphins, the Bucs, come calling?
Oh, that'd be a huge dream of mine. Like you said, I'm a Florida boy. So both my parents went to University of Florida. So it was in my blood to stay home and stay at Florida. So if any NFL team in Florida gave me the opportunity to play for them, I would take full advantage of it, and it'd be a huge blessing for sure.
And I assume now, Johnny, it's a time to kind of reflect back at your time at the University of Florida. Just how awesome of an experience has it been to play for the Gators and then just be on the campus in Gainesville?
It was an unbelievable experience. The Swamp is, in my opinion, the most electric stadium in college football. So it was an unreal experience just, running out into the Swamp every Saturday. And, that's something I'm going to hang on to forever. Like I said, I was, I grew up a big Gator fan. Both my parents went there. So it was a dream of mine just to attend the University of Florida, let alone play football there. So, that's an experience I'm going to take with me forever. So.
You finished tied for first in the nation in punting average, Florida's all-time punting leader. So many accolades, Johnny, and you don't get to that point without a great support system. Nobody becomes so successful without the people around them. So talk about who kind of helped you get to this point.
Sure. Well, first and foremost, it was my family. They were there with me through the very beginning, through thick and thin. And, my parents were the first ones to sacrifice anything on their end to support me. And, my family was my biggest support system then and still is now. And, hopefully they don't ditch me just yet. So we'll see what happens.
You know, with all those accolades, too, I got to tell you, Johnny, there's some injustice going on right now. I'm looking at the recent snubs, the Ray Guy Award for the nation's best punter. You didn't get that AP first-team honors. So I'm sitting here looking at my research. What the heck? Why isn't this guy winning these awards? But on the other side of things, Johnny, you could almost say kind of gives you that chip on your shoulder, that mental edge you might have over other punter prospects, right?
Exactly. You know, like you said, it is tough to get snubbed on some of those awards because, you know, everybody wants the recognition. But you know, for me, you know, my dreams and goals are extending much farther than some of those college accolades. You know, I know who I am as a player, and I know what my stats were. I know what my abilities are. So I'm going to carry every ounce of that. And like you said, a little chip on my shoulder. I'm taking it with me to the next level.
You know, Johnny, I was reading some of the great stuff that you do in the community as well, and it's kind of like applying for college where it's not just about the SAT score, and so for trying to be an NFL player, it's not just about the punting average, right? It's about the whole person, the total package, and there are many pieces to the puzzle, and community work for you is one of those pieces. So kind of talk about your own foundation, of course, and what you do.
Sure. Well, you know, like you said, going to the next level is kind of like the resume of your football film and, you know, everything else that you did off the field as well. You know, coaches love seeing, you know, philanthropy work, community service, things like that. So, you know, it's just all about putting together your ultimate resume to sell yourself to these teams. But, yeah, I recently started my own foundation back in December. You know, it had been in the works since summertime, you know, trying to come up with, you know, different ways to go about it. But, you know, once the season ended, it was full go. And, you know, I recently started, it's just called the Johnny Townsend Foundation, sponsoring the Johnny Townsend Fund, which is raising money for the Pediatric Oncology Infusion Clinic at Shands Hospital. And, you know, it was really something special to me because University of Florida has this program called Goodwill Gators. And what it is it takes the athletes and it kind of puts them out in the community and introduces them to the community aspect of college football. And, you know, through that, I actually got to meet a lot of the pediatric patients at Shands Hospital and, you know, kind of develop relationships with some of them and things like that. And, you know, it wasn't until after my career was over where I felt that I had a big enough platform to, you know, use that to give back to the university that gave me so much. So it's been a really cool experience so far.
And folks, you see the website at the bottom of your screen, JohnnyTownsendSports.com. Check it out today. Johnny, you're back in Gainesville. You're chilling, you're relaxing. But let me know and let the folks know what's coming up for you in the weeks.
Sure. So, you know, like you said, I'm just back in Gainesville. You know, I'm enjoying being back in my college town. And, you know, now that the combine's over, things, I'd say they kind of wind down just a little bit. At the end of the month is my pro day. You know, where teams will come and do workouts with me. And, you know, all in between, I'll have private workouts with teams. They'll come to Gainesville, watch me kick, things like that. So, you know, now that things are kind of geared back a little bit after the combine, I'm going to get a little bit comfortable and, you know, just take advantage of those opportunities one-on-one with teams.
Johnny Townsend, one of the best punters in the nation, joining the Cam Rogers Show here today. Johnny, appreciate it so much. Please don't forget about me when you become ultra successful.
I won't. Trust me.
Johnny Townsend joining the show. Take care, my man.
Thank you for having me, Cam.
All right, many thanks to him, and best of luck to him once the NFL draft comes around. Speaking of the NFL draft, I'll get there. I've got a top 10 mock draft to get to, post-combine edition, made a few changes. So stay tuned for that. But before we get there, I've got all the latest NFL headlines to get through on this Wednesday morning. A lot to discuss. Why? Well, the franchise tag deadline has passed, and so decisions have and really have not been made. So let's start things off with one of the premier wide receivers in free agency, set to be at least, Allen Robinson. He will not or has not gotten the franchise tag. The Jaguars decided not to exercise it on him, so Allen is going to be a free agent for what we can say. I mean, yes, the Jaguars can work out a long-term deal by March 12th once that tampering period opens up and teams can kind of discuss with Allen Robinson. So the clock is ticking on the Jaguars to get some sort of deal on Allen Robinson. And if Rob hits the open market, I'm telling you guys, he is going to be a highly coveted wide receiver. Yes, he only had one reception in 2017, tore his ACL. There's some uncertainty in that regard. But he'll be a popular unrestricted free agent if you look at some of the teams that are probably going to be interested in him. Chicago Bears, San Francisco 49ers, Baltimore Ravens are supposed to be likely interested as well. A report surfaced that the Redskins could be interested, considering the Redskins had the likes of Terrell Pryor last season and Jamison Crowder that really didn't pan out well on the outside. And meanwhile, for Jacksonville, I have been arguing for weeks now that they have to do everything in their power to bring this guy back on the offensive side. You have rookie Keelan Cole, who led the Jags in receiving last year with 748 yards. That ain't going to get it done if you want to beat the likes of Ben Roethlisberger and Tom Brady if, say, a game gets into a shootout in an AFC championship matchup. So my question for Allen Robinson, can he get back to 2015 form? 80 receptions, 1,400 yards, and an NFL-leading 14 touchdowns, made the Pro Bowl that year. Is it a risk that teams out there are willing to make? The salary cap number has been determined, so we are no longer projecting any of the price tags for the franchise tags and all of that stuff. So if you go to overthecap.com and kind of look at the salary cap space for all those teams, a lot of them have a lot of good space and will likely be in the hunt for Allen Robinson. So I'm looking at perhaps the San Francisco 49ers. The Houston Texans have a good amount of salary cap space. The Cleveland Browns can give Allen Robinson an open check, a blank check, and say, all right, give us your amount. So the headline with Allen Robinson, Jaguars did not use the franchise tag on him. The Jags have roughly $29 million in cap space for the 2018 league year. So not a lot of room, and the logic was extending Blake Bortles and cutting Chris Ivory, centered on whether they could extend Allen Robinson. Give us a reaction here. We have a reaction poll for Allen Robinson, the best team out there for him. I want you weighing in. We got the Ravens, Bears, 49ers, or are you thinking another team out there? Hit me with a heart-like laughing face or wow face, respectively, here on Facebook Live or in the comment section on YouTube. As always, here on the Cam Rogers Show, we don't just suggest social media participation, we demand it. Let's go into the next headline this morning. The Bills, they have signed a new running back, Chris Ivory, set to be the backup behind LaShawn McCoy. He's a reliable running back at that. Look, he's only 3 years removed from his 1,000-yard campaign with the Jets. If you may recall that one, he's a solid option for the Buffalo offense under our offensive coordinator, Brian Daboll. So it's a 2-year deal for Chris Ivory, $6 million maximum here. Ivory, I think, is a solid power back, and from a fantasy standpoint, if you want to talk fantasy football real quick, he could vulture away some touchdowns from LaShawn McCoy in 2018. So kind of keep an eye on that. Chris Ivory actually will be a very nice handcuff option because we know how LaShawn McCoy has a tendency to live on injury reports, particularly with that hamstring that tends to nag him. So you see his 2-year numbers with the Jags, 229 carries, 821 yards, 4 touchdowns. Really one of the top tier backup running backs out there. I know it sounds kind of weird to say that, but he is. So Chris Ivory going to the Buffalo Bills. Mike Tolbert, Cadet, Tawan Jones, they're all slated for free agency, so Buffalo had to make some sort of move here. And they did do that, bringing in a solid RB behind LaShawn McCoy. Let's get to the next headline here. The Seahawks, do they want to keep Earl Thomas? That is my understanding. So Seattle's defense is certainly stealing a lot of headlines these days, folks, right? With all this potential turnover that's going on, you know, you probably have been reading things about Michael Bennett and the expectation that he is going to be traded, but Earl Thomas is very much in the 2018 plans for the Seattle Seahawks, that coming from Ian Rappaport. And Thomas has a base salary of $8.5 million. The Seattle Seahawks could save that much if they were to trade him away or cut him or whatever. The Seahawks currently have the 7th worst salary cap space in the National Football League. which is probably perhaps why they're looking into trading Michael Bennett, who has a $7 million cap hit in 2018, and a recent report, kind of a follow-up to this headline here about Michael Bennett. So Ian Rappaport on Tuesday said it's pretty clear Bennett's time with Seattle is up. Here's what he said, quote, "From what I understand, the Seahawks are looking to move him, one of their core defensive players over the last several years. Production has been really no question here, but this is a team that's trying to quiet things down a bit over the last couple of years." Quiet things down. What exactly does that mean? I don't know. Something's fishy here, but I'm just saying. There's been some major change, at least in the headlines, about the Seattle Seahawks kind of going forward, and maybe some of that could come to fruition by way of Earl Thomas, although unlikely, but certainly by way of Michael Bennett. And must note, by the way, of course, as you see on your screen, Seattle has a new defensive coordinator, Ken Norton Jr., so that could be part of the equation as well. All right, let's get to the next headline on the list here. Kirk Cousins. Is he really ruling out teams as he goes through free agency here? Is it a 4-team race? Is it a 2-team race? Really, I think it's anybody's guess. And apparently Kirk Cousins is open to suggestions. He took to Twitter yesterday, and there it is. Next week is now officially the first time since 2007 that I'll be choosing where to play football. I'm open to suggestions, hashtag free agency. And there have been reports out there that it was a 4-team race among the Cardinals, Broncos, Jets, and Vikings. Another report came out that it's just the Vikings and Jets. I read something elsewhere that perhaps it's just the Vikings and that the Jets leadership is worried that there's no amount of money out there to convince Kirk Cousins to go play for New York. So here's what I can tell you. I don't think Kirk Cousins is ruling out any team for free agency. He likes the Vikings a lot. He wants to win now. But he is expected to listen to various offers out there, and I think that's the smart way to go about it. Why, before the opening of the new league year, would you be ruling out any teams in your free agency hunt? It just doesn't make any sense. Like, why not listen to every offer? You clearly are in a unique position here in terms of your history because you have not had a lot of options in terms of teams to play for in the past, certainly in the NFL with all the franchise tags that Kirk Cousins got. So now is an opportunity to field offers from other teams because so many teams are desperate for a signal caller, right? The Denver Broncos. God forbid they trot out Paxton Lynch in week 1 of 2018. Got the Minnesota Vikings. They're not bringing back Case Keenum, Teddy Bridgewater, or Sam Bradford. They are desperate. Arizona Cardinals. Carson Palmer retired. And then you look at the New York Jets and Christian Hackenberg, like so many desperate times for so many teams out there. And as always, I want to hear from you. In 2018, Kirk Cousins will play for. And to finish that sentence for me in the comments section here on Facebook Live. And we will certainly show your comments throughout the show as we see fit. But if I were to pick a favorite for Kirk Cousins, I think it is the Minnesota Vikings. I think they're in the best position to be a Super Bowl contender next season. Better than the Jets for sure. A couple notches better than the Denver Broncos, and a few more notches better than the Arizona Cardinals. If I had to rank it in terms of win now potentiality, I'd go Vikings, Broncos, Cardinals, Jets, and then a very long list or gap, and then Browns. So that's kind of how I'm basing things off here. Brandon chiming in on the show. We appreciate the comment, my man. He's going with Broncos. And I really feel that the Broncos are going to make a big-time run at Kirk Cousins. They might make a couple of salary cap cuts or trade away Aqib Talib, free up some of that salary cap space so they can get into a bidding war with the Vikings and the Jets, etc. Mitchell Renz, I can see, but Vikings make the most sense for Kirk. I think it's really going to be a fun race. This is like reality TV. Which team actually grabs Kirk Cousins in free agency? Young chiming in, going with the Vikings. Appreciate the comment. Keep those comments flowing. We'll continue to show them. Abel chiming in, Kirk Cousins going to the Vikings. You look at that defense, very solid, top down. Offensive line is in solid shape as well. Oh, by the way, Dalvin Cook is coming back. So, yeah, I'm liking it. John DeFilippo, by the way, the new offensive coordinator there for Minnesota, could do wonders for Kirk Cousins as he kind of transitions into a new team. All right, next headline here. The Baltimore Ravens, they are in need of a wide receiver big time. Are they eyeing Donte Moncrief? So Ian Rappaport mentioned that Moncrief is worth monitoring in terms of the Baltimore Ravens going out and getting him. With all this talk about Robinson and Jarvis Landry, folks, there are other wide receivers out there ready to test the open market, and the Ravens are so desperate for playmakers on the outside, it's not even funny. And Donte Moncrief, I think, would be a nice fit for Baltimore. Look, Jeremy Maclin is a potential salary cap cut. I think they should cut him to save up some space. They're not in a great salary cap position as we stand. Mike Wallace is an impending free agent. I doubt they bring him back. And then Brashad Perriman has been an ultimate disappointment, but they're going to give him one more crack in 2018. We'll see what he can do. Moncrief, meanwhile, he's 24, a third-round pick from the 2014 NFL Draft, has showed a nose for the end zone before, which is an area the Ravens have to improve on going into the 2018 campaign. And I think Moncrief showed some solid promise in 2015. Look back, 64 receptions, 733 yards, and 6 touchdowns, obviously playing as not the number 1 wide receiver, probably not even the number 2 wide receiver. And Moncrief has kind of been cursed with bad quarterback play, shall we say, because of the Andrew Luck injuries and all of this. He's 6'2", 221, a nice target for Joe Flacco down the field. And I am in the camp of Joe Flacco is not a bad quarterback. He has been in a very bad situation since his Super Bowl victory with the lack of quality targets. Somebody brought up in the comment section recently, Steve Smith. Yes, I totally blanked on Steve Smith in one of my previous shows. He has been the only adequate target since that Super Bowl victory. So if the Ravens, strapped for money at this juncture, go out and grab Donte Moncrief, I think that would be a very smart play because I don't think they're going to be in the hunt for Jarvis Landry or Allen Robinson. At least, you know, realistically speaking, perhaps Jarvis Landry, but definitely not Allen Robinson. All right, so that's the latest with the Ravens and Donte Moncrief. Back to the franchise tag. LaMarcus Joyner got one from the LA Rams. It's a non-exclusive rights tag, which means other teams out there can negotiate with the Joyner camp. But, of course, the Rams have the right to match whatever offer sheet is provided there by another team. And if the Rams decide not to match that offer and let LaMarcus Joyner walk, then the Rams will get compensation for that. So I think the Rams used the franchise tag on the right player here. So Joyner is set to make $11.3 million in 2018. And that's a very nice price tag compared to what it would be if they were to franchise tag Sammy Watkins, an unproven wide receiver. Let's face it, and giving him upwards of $16 million, really not all that enticing. LaMarcus Joyner, meanwhile, the number 3 safety, according to Pro Football Focus a year ago. And the Rams and Joyner have until July 16th to work out a long-term deal. So that's kind of one of the positives of the franchise tag. Even if you use it, you don't necessarily have to just, book it for a 1-year deal and then move on. Joyner and the Rams front office have an opportunity to kind of sit down and have more negotiations about perhaps a long-term deal. I have been saying for many weeks that LaMarcus Joyner has to be the priority for the Rams. It is clear that Sean McVay went through with his word because he talked about it last week at the Combine. Wade Phillips, I think, is going to have a field day with the secondary next year. John Johnson, Joyner at safety, along with Marcus Peters at corner once that becomes official when the new league year comes around. This also means that Sammy Watkins is likely to become a free agent. And I think he's going to have a solid market behind Landry and Robinson, but ahead of names like Paul Richardson and Donte Moncrief. So he's kind of in that middle area there in terms of the free agency headlines. So LaMarcus Joyner staying with the LA Rams. Sammy Watkins, his future is in doubt, as is for Tremaine Johnson. A couple of teams out there are looking into Tremaine, such as the 49ers and the Oakland Raiders. All right, let's go to the Pittsburgh Steelers now. They have exercised their second consecutive franchise tag on running back Le'Veon Bell. This is very unsurprising considering that talks have not gone in the right direction between the Bell camp and the Steelers leadership. Indications are actually that the Steelers and Bell aren't even close to a long-term deal, which isn't a huge deal considering that they have until the July 16th deadline to kind of get some sort of long-term deal done, some sort of extension done. Here is where I am concerned. If this drags on into the later weeks of June, where is the satisfaction going to be at for Le'Veon Bell? Is there going to be some sort of sour grapes going on here where Le'Veon is starting to lose respect for the Pittsburgh Steelers leadership and front office? And for Pittsburgh, it's going to be very smart for them to get negotiations going and get some sort of long-term deal done before mid-May. Because if this drags on, I'm telling you, it's not going to be good for the psyche of Le'Veon Bell. And also, it's not going to be good in terms of Le'Veon Bell actually showing up for offseason workouts, right? Because you remember last year he got the franchise tag and he skipped offseason workouts. So with that, Le'Veon Bell wants to get paid as the #1 running back in the National Football League. Okay, he wants wide receiver 2 kind of money, if you want to draw another comparison. So where does Le'Veon Bell rank among running backs in the National Football League? We have a reaction poll out there. Give us a heart for number 1, a like for number 2, a laughing face for number 3, and a wow face for number 4. Let me know what you think. I think there's a debate out there because I posted on YouTube one of the segments a couple days ago, and people were saying, well, of course Le'Veon Bell is number 1, and other people were saying, hey, he's a little overrated. Maybe he should be around 3 or 4. You know, you could throw in David Johnson into this argument. I don't know where people out there perceive Ezekiel Elliott at this juncture, but maybe he could be part of that conversation. So let me know. Hit that reaction button on Facebook Live. Also, hit me up in the comments section on YouTube. And we do appreciate your participation. Let's get into another tag. This time, a transition tag for Kyle Fuller, cornerback out of Chicago here. So the Bears have used the transition tag on him. It's a 1-year tag worth $12.97 million. That's down from $2 million from the $14.98 value of the franchise tag. And so what is the transition tag? So teams are free to offer Fuller a deal, but the Bears have the right to match it. So kind of similar to the non-exclusive rights franchise tag. If he leaves, the Bears won't get compensation like in the case of the non-exclusive rights franchise tag. So that's the difference there. The Bears don't get 2 first-round picks if Fuller walks and heads to another team. So it is a cheaper way to do it, and this is the only transition tag that went down across the National Football League this year. It is cheaper, but you don't get the compensation. So that's the roll of the dice there. But Kyle Fuller didn't play a snap in 2016, came back in 2017, had a fantastic year, ranking as the 36th best cornerback according to Pro Football Focus. And Fuller, assuming another team really doesn't come out of nowhere and signs this guy, is a big-time sigh of relief for Chicago because now they can focus on other areas. Because I was seeing in mock drafts out there that the Bears are going to draft Denzel Ward and all this. I don't think there are going to be many more mock drafts that have that because Chicago is bringing back one of their premier corners. Now, with that said, Prince Amukamara is going to hit the open market, so maybe the Bears could address corner in round 2 or 3 or 4. But in round 1, I think the Bears have to look at inside linebacker, perhaps wide receiver, although I don't agree with them drafting Calvin Ridley. I'm a little worried about him after his performance at the Combine. I'll talk about who the Bears draft later in my top 10 mock draft. But Kyle Fuller, transition tag, he's staying with the Chicago Bears, unless another team comes swooping in. We'll see. Finally, Joe Thomas, premier tackle for the Cleveland Browns. Well, he is pondering retirement right now. He has actually auditioned for TV gigs out there with ESPN, Fox Sports 1, and Fox Sports, respectively. And this is just kind of sad to see. Thomas, 33 years old, didn't miss a single snap in his career until last October's triceps injury, which put him out for the season. He's under contract through the 2018 season, holding a $14.3 million cap hit. But this guy is one of the premier left tackles in the NFL, if not the best left tackle, if I'm looking past even Jason Peters here. He can still play at a very high level in my eyes. He was graded as the best left tackle, according to Pro Football Focus, through, his healthy portion of 2017. And you look at his grade here, 88.9, that was higher than Jason Peters. So the question about Joe Thomas is the following. Can he come back healthy in 2018 after that triceps injury? And I think that's really what he is mulling over right now. And you see the quote on your screen, the end is coming sooner than later. And, the beginning of the Cleveland Browns being a successful franchise also is probably more later than sooner. So you weigh both of those, and maybe Joe Thomas realizes that a Super Bowl victory is not in the immediate future for him or the Cleveland Browns. But we shall see. One of the best tackles out there. Guy does a fantastic job at the blind side for the Cleveland Browns. Those are your NFL headlines. You're watching the Cam Rogers Show here on Chat Sports Facebook Live. We are presented by Mizzen and Main. These are advanced performance fabric shirts that are fantastic products. Wear them wherever you want, literally, to bed, to work, corporate outings, parties, whatever the case may be. Check them out. Comfortable.af is indeed the website. Mizzen and Main sponsoring the Cam Rogers Show here today. Wrapped up the NFL headlines. Let's get into my top 10 NFL mock draft post-combine edition. Got you covered. Let's go to number 1 overall. And I made a big-time switch, and it's probably going to draw some controversy, and I understand that. Saquon Barkley, number 1 overall to the Cleveland Browns. Can I just say for a minute how exciting the number 1 overall pick is going to be for this year's NFL draft? And I think a few weeks ago it wasn't as exciting because it was either Darnold or Rosen. But all of a sudden, and maybe Tom Downey can correct me on this, but the post-combine buzz has gotten me into a zone where I feel there are 4 potential options at the number 1 overall pick. Saquon Barkley, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, and you heard it here first, Josh freaking Allen out of Wyoming. I think those are all potential number 1 overall picks. So I think it's going to be a lot of excitement here in terms of that top pick for the Cleveland Browns. And what can I say about Saquon? So I think you have to get the most exciting player in the NFL draft, and I think it is Saquon Barkley. You draft him number 1, and you run to the next tee, as they say in the golfing world. You draft him, and you don't look back. So from my understanding, and from what I have gathered, the Browns aren't in love with any particular quarterback out there. So why go ahead and get one at number 1 overall when at number 4 overall you can draft a Rosen if he falls to you, a Mayfield. If you're liking Josh Allen, go ahead and get Josh Allen. Maybe Sam Darnold if he falls that far. So if you weigh all of your quarterbacks on a plateau in a sense and that they're all equal, and I'm not saying that they do, but from what I've gathered, that seems to be the indication. You go ahead and draft Saquon Barkley at number 1, and that's kind of the luxury the Browns have. They have number 1 and number 4. So Saquon, 6 feet tall, 233 pounds, ran a 4.4 40, posted a 41-inch vertical leap, and recorded 29 bench press reps. Now, Saquon is battling the odds here because no running back has gone number 1 overall in this millennium. You have to go back all the way to 1995 when the number 1 song on the top 40 list was like Scrubs or something. We're going way back. So that was the last time a running back went number 1 overall. So Saquon Barkley is looking to be the first person in the 2000s to actually accomplish that feat. By the way, homework for the audience right now. Find out the number 1 song in 1995 and let me know in the comments section because I'm actually really curious. I made a guess with Scrubs, but I don't know. So Saquon Barkley. GM John Dorsey also said at the Senior Bowl that he will take the best player at number 1 overall. That's certainly not Sam Darnold or Josh Rosen. I think it's Saquon Barkley. Energize the fan base, John. Saquon goes number 1 overall to the Cleveland Browns. Let's go to number 2 now. Josh Rosen going to the New York Giants. And by the way, as I go through these picks, I'm not projecting trades. There will be trades in the top 10, I can guarantee it. But just predicting those is just like rolling a dice. Doesn't really make much sense. So, Josh Rosen, elite footwork and balance. Has that quarterback look when he delivers the football. That's what I like about him when you watch the tape. Did not have the best combine, though. He really struggled with outbreaking routes such as posts and speed outs, and that's somewhat concerning for me. But we have to take combine with a grain of salt, right? These are guys that are in T-shirts and throwing footballs that way. I mean, they're not in full pads. They don't have an offensive line in front of them. They don't have Bradley Chubb, for example, coming after them, or Ndamukong Suh. But he did struggle with ball placement and accuracy at the combine. And so it's something that we should all monitor in terms of his draft stock. I still have him here at number 2. I was very tempted to move him down below Darnold and maybe even Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield. But here's the deal. It makes sense here to the Giants because the Giants are not in any hurry right now in terms of getting a start now running or quarterback. Josh Rosen can go to the New York Giants and learn and be groomed under the offensive mind that is Pat Shurmur, who's the new head coach there for New York. Let Eli Manning perhaps play some sort of mentor role, and maybe even the Giants get a veteran quarterback like Josh McCown or Case Keenum or whatever, and that player can also kind of mentor Josh Rosen as well. So I think it's a good opportunity for Rosen to learn under some very intelligent people within the New York Giants organization. I'm not even sure if the Giants are even all that concerned with Josh Rosen's performance at the Combine. He's going to get another chance at his pro day as well, so we can monitor that. He does need help in terms of leadership. And whether or not that is something that can be taught is up for debate. But I think the Giants staff / veteran players are in a position where perhaps they can mold Josh Rosen into some sort of leader. All right, so he goes number 2 overall to the Giants. Big time switch for me at number 3 overall. I originally had Quenton Nelson, the premier guard out of Notre Dame. Don't have him there anymore. Why? Because I have convinced myself that Bradley Chubb is a freak at the defensive end position, and there is a big gap between Chubb and the next tier of edge rushers out there, the Landrys of the world and the Davenports of the world. And I was convinced about that when I looked at the Combine results. So, yes, the Colts could go Quenton Nelson at number 3 overall. But let's remember, there's going to be a good amount of solid guards to hit free agency. And the Colts have a good amount of salary cap space as well. So the Colts could go ahead and say, all right, we will go ahead and get Andrew Norwell via free agency, and then we can address the defense with our number 3 overall pick. And that's where I see things going down. So Bradley Chubb goes to number 3, and you look at his Combine results, ran a 4.65 40, among the best players, or among the best at that position for him. He benched 24 reps, which is solid on the bench there, and 36-inch vertical leap, and 121-inch broad jump as well. Bradley Chubb didn't really get talked about much after the Combine. He didn't gobble up the headlines like Shaquem Griffin did or Saquon Barkley either. But that's because Chubb performed up to expectations. Like, everybody knows how good this guy is. And so because he had such a great Combine, everybody's like, oh, okay, of course, we expected that. So Bradley Chubb at number 3 overall. I think the Colts need help on that front 7. They were second to last in sacks in 2017. And the team out there that is probably going to be the most PO'd about the Colts getting Bradley at number 3, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because they were dead last in sacks last year. Jamal Sheard led the way for the Colts with 5.5 sacks in 2017. John Simon was okay. And like I said, big-time drop-off after Bradley Chubb. The Colts have to get this guy. So there is number 3. Let's go to number 4 overall. The Cleveland Browns, yet again, thanks to the Houston Texans, they draft Sam Darnold, quarterback out of USC. I think he goes at this spot. 6'3", roughly, 221 pounds. He's got that prototypical quarterback size, throws a tight spiral, trusts his arm really well, great pocket presence too. Here's the thing. We did not see him throw at the Combine, elected not to do so. So all eyes will be on him at the USC Pro Day on March 21st. So I reserve the right to change the number 4 overall pick here for the Cleveland Browns because I want to see how Sam Darnold does at the Pro Day. Now, I actually think this is a smart decision on the part of Darnold. Why? Because Sam Darnold at his Pro Day will be throwing to players that he is familiar with. In the case of the Combine, you're not so familiar with these guys. So that's kind of that edge there that Sam Darnold may have over other players. There's no negative tape to look at from the Combine, like, for example, there would be with Josh Rosen. So the debate goes on. Is it Rosen? Is it Allen? Is it Mayfield? Who is the best quarterback in the 2018 NFL Draft? Hit me with those reactions. Give us a heart for Sam Darnold, a like for Josh Rosen, a laughing face for Josh Allen, and a wow face for Baker Mayfield. And, of course, if you're watching on YouTube, hit me in the comments section below. If you look at the potentiality for Sam Darnold to be that number one overall pick to the Cleveland Browns, you compare the 40 times here with Jameis Winston and Jared Goff, former number 1 overall picks. Goff ran a 4.82. Winston ran a 4.97. Darnold ran a 4.85. He's smack dab in the middle of those two. Here, I think the Browns will be quite happy to have Darnold over Rosen at number 4 overall. That is my understanding. And with them grabbing Barkley at number 1, I think Darnold at number 4 would be a dream scenario, barring any sort of disaster at the Pro Day, but I doubt that's going to happen. Let's go to number 5 overall in my top 10 mock draft. The Denver Broncos will select Josh Allen, quarterback out of Wyoming. I'm buying into it. I moved Baker Mayfield down my list. And I'm not saying I would 100% agree with this pick, but I just see it happening. And by the way, I have to assume that the Denver Broncos also miss out on the Kirk Cousins sweepstakes and the Case Keenum sweepstakes and all this stuff, and their hands are kind of tied here. So we're assuming that. But Josh Allen, he's a big fella, 6'5", 237, has fantastic arm strength and talent. The tape shows that. And you look at his Combine, and it helped him a lot. Showcased his ideal quarterback build while he was there, showed the great arm ability, hit receivers in stride up to 70 yards downfield, showed great ball placement too, great lower body mechanics. It's clear he's been working on what everybody out there has been criticizing. Yes, the 56 completion rate is something that's hard to look past for many GMs out there. Yes, the Denver Broncos have failed with tall, big-armed quarterbacks, i.e. Brock Osweiler, Paxton Lynch. I get it. But if Denver loses out on Kirk, perhaps to the Minnesota Vikings, which is very, very possible, and to Case Keenum, very, very possible, maybe the Arizona Cardinals come swooping in, they might not have a better option here at number 5 overall. They probably have to address the interior of their offensive line. They could look to other areas as well. And Baker Mayfield, by the way, very much in play at number 5, too. It really depends on where John Elway sees this offense going from a schematic standpoint. And what do I mean by that? With new offensive coordinator Bill Musgrave, does Denver want to be that running, hard play action type of team, or more of a West Coast feel? And I think if it's a hard play action type of team, fire the football down the field coming off some running success, I think Josh Allen is your quarterback. If you want more of a short pop kind of offense and a West Coast kind of deal, I think it maybe should be Baker Mayfield. So as of now, I've got Josh Allen at number 5 overall going to the Denver Broncos. Let's go to number 6. I talked about Baker Mayfield. He will be drafted by the New York Jets. I am coining this phrase. So remember it, folks. Big Apple Baker. Book it. I like it. And a few QB coaches actually talked about how well Mayfield did at the Combine. I think his stock is rising, and I'm buying into it. And Mayfield measured in at 6 feet, 5 8 inches tall. You know, he's not a statuesque kind of guy by any means. And in the past 15 drafts, the only quarterback shorter than 6'1" to be drafted in the first round was Johnny Manziel. So please just do me a favor, folks. Forget the Manziel narrative, because obviously Baker Mayfield is an individual. He's his own person. He's not Johnny Manziel. All right, so those comparisons just aren't fair. So is there some immaturity issues here with Baker? Totally. Understand that. Yes, he's got to work through some things, and, you know, I think he's getting better in that regard. Here's what really draws me with Baker and the Jets, and I want to know what you guys think about this in the comments section. I think he's a great fit for offensive coordinator Jeremy Bates. Jeremy Bates is a guy I respect a lot, and he's a young guy too, 42 years old, and I think that can help him connect well with a young player like Baker Mayfield. Bates has a great history of developing quarterbacks as well. You may recall that in 2008, Bates was the Broncos quarterbacks coach, and Jay Cutler made the freaking Pro Bowl that year. Like, Jay Cutler, ladies and gentlemen, you just saw him last year stink up the joint for the Miami Dolphins. So that's the kind of prowess that Jeremy Bates has. He has worked with quarterbacks ever since 2004. So I'm buying into that, and I'm buying into Big Apple Baker, but would you draft Baker Mayfield? I want to hear from you. Pretend you're a general manager, okay? You're in Dallas, and you have to decide on the quarterback of your future. Are you drafting Baker Mayfield, or are you looking elsewhere? If you want to talk about competitiveness and grit and chip on your shoulder, Baker Mayfield is your guy. He's got that competitive edge that I think other players out there may not have, i.e. Josh Rosen. So I got Baker going 6 overall to the New York Jets. Let's check in with number 7 overall. So at this point, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are very angry because they have missed out on Bradley Chubb because the Colts got him at number 3. So with the Buccaneers missing out on a great edge rusher, they got to go to another need, and that is the guard position. Quenton Nelson is my guy. Best run blocker in the draft, and great footwork and quickness too in pass protection. He may be the best overall player in the 2018 NFL draft. He's not going to go number 1 overall, but he may be that best player, and he's an absolute road grader. The Bucs, they tied for 27th in rushing average last season with 3.7 yards per attempt. If you watch the tape on Quenton Nelson, it is quite clear. He blows defenders off the ball. He's got a great initial punch. He is very aggressive, and also he can do zone blocking and man blocking. 2 different types of schemes. And he can do them both because he has the movement to do zone blocking, but he also has that mauling ability in run blocking as well. So Quenton Nelson, I think, would be a great fit for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and guards Kevin Pamphile and Evan Smith are expected to hit free agency as well. So you're already seeing some holes here on that offensive line for the Buccaneers that has already struggled. So I think Tampa would be making a major mistake if they pass up on Quenton Nelson at number 7. This is also assuming that Bradley Chubb does not fall to them. So if Bradley Chubb is there, I think they go with Chubb and perhaps address the guard position in free agency. But if Chubb is taken, Quenton Nelson has to go. And oh, by the way, you got to protect Jameis Winston, because this guy, and Jameis, is coming off an AC joint injury and missed some games last year. So if you're the Tampa Bay leadership, if you're Dirk Cutter, who, by the way, I have no understanding why he is the head coach still, you got to think about the franchise, and you got to think about Jameis Winston and protecting him. So I think Quenton Nelson is step number 1 for them. All right, let's go to number 8 overall. The Chicago Bears. Will they get Calvin Ridley? Did I leave him on the board here? No, I did not. Give me Tremaine Edmunds, a linebacker out of Virginia Tech. I was not very impressed with Calvin Ridley in the Combine. Did not measure out well. It did not measure to the liking of what I really wanted. And I was already saying for many weeks that the Chicago Bears would be reaching for Calvin Ridley. So I think they could go in the direction of Tremaine Edmunds here, and I love this pick. And with the news of Kyle Fuller getting the transition tag, I don't think corner is a need here at number 8, perhaps maybe in the second, third, fourth rounds, etc. Edmunds went off at the combine. Look at these numbers. You got 4.54 40-yard dash at 253 pounds. Did 19 reps on the bench press, logged the 12th longest broad jump as well. And his time in 2017 with the Hokies totaled 109 tackles, 14 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks, and 3 forced fumbles. He is a playmaker. And the Bears, meanwhile, cut a pair of veteran pass rushers in Pernell McPhee and Willie Young recently. So now there's a hole at the linebacking core for Chicago. I think they could use an athlete like Tremaine Edmunds. I really do. I challenge you out there to bring a better name for me in the comments section because I really don't know if there is one for Chicago. I mean, I think their secondary is in fine shape. I know Prince Amukamara is going to walk into free agency and see what he can do. But addressing the linebacker position is something that I'm watching. And Tremaine Edmunds, he's got a lot of positional versatility too. And General Manager Ryan Pace has been vocal about improving the linebacking core. Edmunds was mostly an inside guy at Virginia Tech, but he has shown flashes at edge as well. You can throw him in many different areas on that defensive side. So with that, Chicago, they go with Tremaine Edmunds at number 8 overall. All right, so the 49ers and the Raiders flipped the coin. The 49ers won it, so they select number 9 overall. And with this pick, they will select Minkah Fitzpatrick, defensive back out of Alabama. And all the 49ers fans watching this video right now are like, what the heck? We don't need a safety. I get it. The 49ers, they have Jimmy Ward, Jaquiski Tart, Adrian Colbert. Understood. Minkah Fitzpatrick is not just a safety. He's not just a corner. And honestly, who cares where you put this guy in the secondary? He is an unbelievable talent. And I think it would be a mistake for the 49ers to kind of look past Minkah Fitzpatrick here at number 9. I did not have him in a previous top 10 mock draft, and I got a little flack for that. I went into the combine, watched the tape of the combine. I was convinced that this guy needs to go in the top 10. He's a special kind of player, and he's definitely not a pure safety. He's got above average height, weight, and long limbs, light on his feet, accelerates quickly, and shows loose hips, which is very much necessary in terms of secondary coverage. So Minkah Fitzpatrick is a guy I really do like. You see there in your graphic, ran a 4.47 40-yard dash. And the 49ers, they may not need help at the safety position, but they do need help in general in the secondary. And Fitzpatrick has this mold of a modern NFL defensive back, a guy you can put in many different areas. And I think the 49ers would have a field day with utilizing Minkah Fitzpatrick in that secondary. You could see the 49ers perhaps address the corner position in free agency. Maybe they get Tremaine Johnson. Maybe they get Malcolm Butler. Who knows? But at number 9 overall, with Quenton Nelson gone, right, because they, of course, have to address the guard position, Bradley Chubb's gone too, another guy you could perhaps see going to the 49ers. Your hands are kind of tied at this point. Tremaine Edmunds gone as well. And he has been mocked to the 49ers too. So I'm not putting Denzel Ward at number 9 overall. I'm sorry, folks. I'm putting Minkah Fitzpatrick there because I think he has the overall talent over Denzel Ward. Minkah Fitzpatrick out of Alabama going to the San Francisco 49ers. Finally at number 10 overall, the Oakland Raiders will select Roquan Smith, linebacker out of Georgia. So I'm keeping Roquan here at number 10. Navarro Bowman isn't expected to return, so there's a hole at linebacker, and Roquan Smith showed great speed at the combine, ran a 4.51 40. He did experience hamstring issues after that run, so he did shut it down. So it's a little concerning there, but I don't think anybody should really sweat about that. has fantastic speed to cover sideline to sideline. He can run with running backs and pass coverage, which is something that I think the Raiders should certainly value here at number 10 overall. And I guess you could make an argument for Joshua Jackson or Denzel Ward here because the Raiders do have needs at the cornerback position, but maybe they get Tremaine Johnson during free agency. And once they get Tremaine Johnson, maybe that need isn't as high. So Roquan Smith is a popular pick here for many mock drafters out there to go to the Oakland Raiders. I'm going to stick with him here at number 10. I like this position. And the Raiders, a franchise that have not really addressed linebacker all that well in the draft in recent years, I think it's time to start addressing it. And Reggie McKenzie, the general manager, a former linebacker in his own right, should probably start realizing that the linebacking core is fairly important. We do have a recap as well for my top 10 NFL mock draft post-combine edition. Let's take a look at 1 through 5. Saquon Barkley going to the Cleveland Browns. Josh Rosen to the Giants. Bradley Chubb, number 3, to the Colts. Sam Darnold goes to the Browns. And Josh Allen goes to the Broncos. Followed by Big Apple Baker to the Jets. Quenton Nelson to the Bucks. Tremaine Edmunds goes to the Chicago Bears. Minkah Fitzpatrick goes to the San Francisco 49ers. And Roquan Smith goes to the Oakland Raiders at number 10 overall. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching The Cam Rogers Show here on Chat Sports Facebook Live. I'm Cam Rogers. Check me out on Twitter at Mr. Rogers99. We are indeed presented by Mizzen and Main. Get great shirts out there. Comfortable.af. Fantastic performance fabric shirts, and you can get some pretty darn good deals on that site as well. Comfortable.af. Mizzen and Main is sponsoring the Cam Rogers Show here today. Not just shirts on that website either. You got pants, hats, sweaters, many different products. Check them out. Many thanks to Mizzen and Main for sponsoring the Cam Rogers Show here today. A few minutes left of the program. We're going to wrap things up with a little Tiger Woods talk here. So Tiger will tee it up at the Valspar Championship this week. Starting tomorrow, he is grouped with Jordan Spieth and Henrik Stenson. Spieth, a former winner at this event. Tiger has never played in the Valspar Championship before, coming off a 12th place finish at the Honda Classic. And this course, Copperhead, as they call it, in Palm Harbor, Florida, has some flashes similar to PGA National. It's a par 71 with a length around 7,300 yards. The course has the Snake Pit, featuring holes 16 through 18, 2 brutal par 4s, and a difficult par 3. As for Tiger, this course will allow him to put the driver away, and I think that is perfect for his game right now. His driver is not all that great, and I know he's working on it and all that, but his iron game has been unreal, and if he can just hit the irons and the woods off the tee, put himself in position, because that's very key at this golf course. It's all about position off the tee, not necessarily about hitting the fairway, but more about getting the right angles to the greens. I think he'll be okay. Tiger Woods, in his last 24 rounds, ranks 8th in the field in strokes gained putting and 6th in the field this week in strokes gained approach. So that means he's doing a really good job with his flat stick on the greens and also doing a really good job with his iron game. This is ultra impressive because he's been in the rough so often that it makes it hard to hit greens when you're hitting in the long stuff, right? So Tiger's iron game is supreme at this juncture. Now, why is Tiger playing the Valspar and then the Arnold Palmer Invitational the week after? It's simple. He's getting ready for Augusta, the Masters in April. Woods currently has 16-1 odds to toss on the green jacket for a 5th time. Dustin Johnson currently leads the way with 8-1 odds. But the key for Tiger this week, guys, is for him to stay within himself. Don't force the driver. Pick your spots. Plod your way around the golf course. And I think Tiger comes up with a nice top 25 finish at the Valspar Championship, playing at Copperhead for the first time on the PGA Tour. All right, folks, I'm wrapping up the Cam Rogers Show here today. I'll see you back here on Friday, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, getting you ready for a really fun weekend in college basketball. Remember, check me out on Twitter at Mr. Rogers99. I'll see you Friday.